Don't believe everything you've heard about the iPhone Air. Right now, most people are skipping over it and choosing between the iPhone 17 and iPhone 17 Pro. But after 2 weeks with the iPhone Air, I've seen just how misunderstood this phone really is. In this video, I'm going to break down the 5 biggest misconceptions about the iPhone Air, and by the end, you might realize this is actually the perfect iPhone for you. The first misconception is that thinness isn't a compelling feature. I'll be honest, when I first heard about this phone, I thought, so what? It's just a thinner iPhone. But there really is something about just picking up and holding this phone that is really hard to describe or show in a video. It's something you need to feel for yourself to understand just how big a deal it actually is. We can get into the nitty-gritty of tech specs and all that, and we will, but when you think about it, this is a smartphone, which means you'll be picking it up and holding it every single day, likely for several hours, which means how it feels is actually an extremely important feature. We've had thin iPhones before, but for the past 10 years or so, I've supported Apple's decision to move towards thicker iPhones because it meant longer battery life, bigger screens, and better technology could be packed inside them. And with the advancements Apple has made in producing their own silicon, creating chips that are both super powerful and energy efficient, it's allowed them to finally create a super thin phone again, and it's all screen. It has the same Super Retina XDR display found in the iPhone 17 and 17 Pros with super thin bezels, ProMotion, and the always-on display. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it doesn't even feel like I'm holding a phone. It feels like I'm holding just the screen. It's 6.5 inches big, but don't let that screen size scare you. I found that the iPhone Air was noticeably more comfortable in my hand than the smaller but thicker 6.1-inch iPhone 16. And I honestly believe this screen size is the sweet spot for almost everyone. The next misconception is bending. Back in 2014, Apple released their thinnest iPhones ever, the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus. Shortly after their release, it was widely reported that these phones could easily bend when put under pressure, including just being carried inside a tight pant pocket. Videos of people online trying to bend the phone with their bare hands and succeeding went super viral. However, Apple fixed this issue just a year later with the iPhone 6s by using a much stronger aluminum. And ever since then, iPhones have only gotten thicker, and their more premium models have used stronger materials like stainless steel and titanium. And now that Apple has finally released a phone that's thinner than the iPhone 6, the Bendgate 2.0 rumors started up immediately, and many people will likely just look at this phone and think, I bet you that's gonna bend. The reality though is this is truly Apple's most durable iPhone ever. It's using a polished titanium frame instead of aluminum, and it has Ceramic Shield 2 covering both the front and back of the phone. This is Apple's most crack and scratch resistant glass ever, and was even proven as such during Jerry Rig Everything's infamous durability test. And when it came to his highly anticipated bend test, the iPhone Air passed with flying colors. There was one issue with this video though, the thumbnail. He shows the iPhone Air completely snapped in half, and the reason for that is because later on in the video, he uses a crane scale to find the official number where the iPhone Air snaps. The answer is 216 pounds of pressure. And there's already been instances of people seeing that thumbnail, not watching the video, and then continuing to assume the iPhone Air will easily bend. So for anyone out there assuming this phone will be a super fragile device, that couldn't be further from the truth. Now, just because it's durable, doesn't mean it's indestructible, which is why I partnered up with RHINOSHIELD, who sponsored today's video. RHINOSHIELD has completely redesigned their lineup for the iPhone 17, offering ultimate protection across the board. Starting off with their sleek Solid X case, which has been re-engineered with reinforced corners and inner shock grooves to absorb up to 71% of impact force. My personal favorite is the clear case. It's only 2mm thick, which complements the design of the iPhone Air perfectly, and it only weighs 31.7 grams, which is the same as half a slice of bread. You'll also never have to worry about discoloration with this case, as RHINOSHIELD offers a lifetime anti-yellowing guarantee. Then there's the customizable Mod NX case, which lets you swap out bumpers and backplates for completely different looks. There's thousands of different designs and exclusive IP to choose from, plus you can even remove the backplate altogether to use it as a bumper case. And for the best protection, RHINOSHIELD cases work best when combined with their Impact Protector Pro, which combines a smooth glass-like clarity with the durability of plastic to create an extremely impact-resistant screen protector. Every RHINOSHIELD product is tested in their in-house lab to survive tumbles, scratches, flips, and drops of up to 11 feet to make sure it's built to last. And what really sets RHINOSHIELD apart is how every case is made from just a single material, which makes them 100% recyclable through their Rhino Loop program. Right now, RHINOSHIELD has a special offer I've included in the description down below, and you can even take an additional 10% off your order when you use code NICK10. A huge thank you to RHINOSHIELD for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to it. The next misconception is poor battery life. In the same way you may think the iPhone Air will easily bend just by looking at it, naturally you'll assume the battery life can't possibly be as good as the thicker iPhone models. But surprisingly, that's not really the case. Apple has done a lot of engineering magic to squeeze as much battery life into this phone as possible. In fact, the giant camera bump Apple calls the plateau is a major reason for this. They moved as many components up into this plateau as they could, freeing up space down below for a larger, higher density battery. One of those components is the A19 Pro chip, and this phone has more custom Apple Silicon in it than any other iPhone. It has an upgraded C1X modem for 5G networking and a brand new N1 chip for wireless connectivity like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So far, my experience with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth has been the same as any other iPhone. But for me, that's always been a reliable and solid experience. If you're someone who has had issues with Bluetooth or AirDrop in the past, you may see some improvements with this new N1 chip. As for 5G, it's been fine. I've been testing out a 17 Pro Max as well, and I've been moving my eSIM service back and forth between both of them. The first time I did this on the iPhone Air, it struggled on 5G initially, but that seems to have resolved itself after a day. There have been some thermal concerns about an A19 Pro being inside a phone this thin and the rest of it being all battery, but so far for me, it's hardly ever gotten really warm. Sometimes I'll notice it right here underneath the camera plateau, but as for the lower half of this phone, it's always been very cool to the touch, which has actually been more pleasant than I realized. I think I may have gotten used to older iPhones always running a little hot. So with all that, the battery life has consistently been performing on par with last year's iPhone 16 and 16 Pro models, and the brand new iPhone 17 is only outlasting it by a small margin. But given its form factor, that is a completely acceptable trade-off. For the majority of people, this is plenty of battery life and will likely be a major upgrade depending on the phone they're coming from. And let's be honest, it's not hard to get a quick charge at some point throughout your day. Now, this leads us to the next misconception. In the pursuit of battery life, Apple removed too many features from this phone. But if we take a look at the list of missing features, there's no physical SIM card, only one speaker instead of two, only one rear camera instead of 2 or 3, and that's it. eSIM is something we've been used to in the States for a while now, and Apple seems to be pushing for this transition more and more globally. I've grown to actually like this change. It's kind of like video games. Digital downloads just offer more convenience than physical copies, and once you make the switch, it's hard to go back. The more controversial removal was the second built-in speaker at the bottom of the phone. Instead of having dual speaker stereo audio, there's just one speaker at the top. And yeah, if you're comparing it side by side with another phone, you'll notice it's not as good. It also gets a little worse if you turn it all the way up, with it sometimes getting a little tinny and distorted. For vertical content like YouTube Shorts or TikTok, I don't really have an issue with the speaker, but when watching videos in landscape, it can be a little jarring having audio come noticeably from one side rather than having it feeling like it's centered. Is it a deal breaker? No, because honestly, if you want to seriously consume content, you're probably not using the built-in speaker anyway. You'll be using a decent pair of headphones or earbuds. Now, the final missing feature and final misconception is one camera isn't enough. This one will be subjective. Let's start with anyone upgrading from an iPhone 8, iPhone SE, or an iPhone XR, then you're already used to living with a single camera, and this will be a significant upgrade for you. Even if you're upgrading from, say, the iPhone 10 or 10s, those phones had dual cameras, and even still, this single camera is an upgrade. That's because those phones had a 12 megapixel main camera and a 12 megapixel 2x telephoto camera. And since the iPhone Air has a 48 megapixel fusion camera, it can crop into the middle 12 megapixels of the sensor to create the equivalent of a 2x telephoto optical zoom lens. And that's not to mention all the additional camera features you get with this upgrade, like portrait mode with depth and focus control and the next generation photographic styles. Now, where it gets trickier is if you've owned an iPhone with an ultra-wide lens or a more powerful telephoto lens, then it's dependent on how often you use those lenses. There are some other camera features that will be missing because there's no ultra-wide lens. For example, you won't be able to take spatial photos or videos, which are designed to be viewed on VR headsets like the Apple Vision Pro. This is something most people probably don't need to worry about, and it's even less of an issue with iOS 26 because now you can turn any photo into a spatial photo, even if it wasn't taken with an iPhone. The macro photography option you get with that lens is nice to have, but not something I typically use for everyday shooting. In fact, you can still get up surprisingly close to small objects. Here's a slow motion video I shot with the iPhone Air of a bee flying away from a flower. I mean, come on, that's gorgeous. And technically, I'm grasping at straws here, but there is a wider angle camera available on this phone. Believe it or not, the field of view of the selfie camera is wider than the main camera on the back of the phone, so you could always take advantage of that lens if you were in a pinch. Otherwise, the new selfie camera on the iPhone Air is the same on the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro with its 18 megapixel sensor and square aspect ratio, which lets you change the orientation of your selfie without having to physically rotate the phone. The rear camera is also the same main camera found on the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro, so you're getting the exact same quality lens as those phones, and for most people, that's the lens they use the majority of the time. Overall, I've been quite happy with the camera on the iPhone Air. It served me perfectly well in typical day-to-day shooting. So, who is the iPhone Air actually for? This isn't a phone for tech enthusiasts who want every possible feature crammed into their device. It's also not the phone for anyone who is budget conscious because for $200 less, the iPhone 17 is a pretty tough value to beat. But if budget is not the biggest determining factor in which iPhone you're choosing, then I do think there's some value in the $200 jump from the 17 to the Air. You'll have more premium materials like the polished titanium frame, a higher-end A19 Pro chip with 12 gigabytes of RAM instead of the 8 gigabytes in the iPhone 17, a larger 6.5-inch display, and most importantly, you get the thinnest iPhone ever made. An iPhone that disappears in your pocket, that feels effortless to hold for long periods, and makes you excited to pick it up and use it. Is it perfect? Almost. And after my time using it, I can confidently say it's a lot better than you may have been led to believe. If you want a device that feels like it came from the future, well then, this is the phone I would pick up. If you need more help deciding whether or not it's time to upgrade and which phone to upgrade to, check out this video next. I'm Nick Bradley. Thank you so much for watching.